Excel has a lot of different shortcut keys, and this is what we're going to see in today's video. How can we use each one of these different shortcut keys in Excel through a different and practical example to help us out save time on our daily basis? Let's start here with the first shortcut key, that is Ctrl Shift L. The Ctrl Shift L can help us to enable, or Ctrl Shift L, disable the filters of our dataset, of our table, for example. Instead of go all the way up, Home tab, and all the way to the right and select Sort and Filter, and then clicking the filter to enable or disable the filter, we can instead using the shortcut key Ctrl Shift L, Ctrl Shift L. That way we can get access much faster to the filters itself, and that way we can make analysis through our table, through our data set here in Excel. The second shortcut key here in Excel that is worth to use is the Ctrl T, because the Ctrl T can transform our dataset in a table itself. Instead of go to the Insert tab and Table, and then click here OK, we can do it in a faster way. I just need to click in anywhere within, inside my dataset, and then Ctrl T. That way I can open the same message box here, Create Table, and then I can click here OK. And I'm done. My table is already here in the screen. Another shortcut key that we can use here in Excel is the Ctrl Arrow Key, or Ctrl Shift Arrow Key. I'm going to explain the difference between these two, but let's start through the Ctrl Arrow Key. The Ctrl Arrow Key, let's say you have a large data set in Excel, or you don't want to use the mouse, you just want to use the keyboard keys. You can do it, because instead of, let's say, move all the way to the right, click to the right, to the right, to the right, again, and again, you can do it faster. You just need to, let's say, let me select here the first cell, and then Ctrl to the right. That way, the selection moves all the way to the right. And if I press Ctrl down, the select move all the way down. And if I press Ctrl left, the select move all the way left. And if I press Ctrl up, the selection move all the way to the top. So this is how we can use Ctrl keys to move the selection through our dataset. And let's say now my selection is out my dataset. What's going to happen? What is the cell if I press Ctrl to the right that is going to end up, for example? Let's so click here in this cell right here. If I press Ctrl to the left, the selection moves to the first columns where I have my first value, for example. But let's say I am here in a blank cell, and then there's nothing to the right, or maybe here, there's nothing to the right. And if I press Ctrl to the right, what's going to happen is the selection is going to move all the way to the right to the end of the spreadsheet. So this is the last column here in my Excel spreadsheet. And now if I press Ctrl to the left, I can come back here to the first column where I have my first set of data, for example. And instead of using the Ctrl keys, I can also add one more key to this shortcut, Ctrl Shift Arrow Key, for example. That way, I can, instead of just moving the selection, I can move and drag all the cells behind the selection. So in a practical way, it's going to look like this, for example. Ctrl Shift to the right. I can select that way the entire first row. And if I, let's say, I'm here in this last column, and then I want to select the entire column, just where I have the values, not exactly the entire column I, but the values that make up the order total, for example. I can start in the second row and then Ctrl Shift all the way down. That way I can select everything that make up my order total value column. And if I want to select the entire data set, I can start here in the first cell, for example, and then Ctrl Shift to the right, Ctrl Shift down, Ctrl Shift to the left, Ctrl Shift up. And then I just start again in the beginning of the spreadsheet in the cell A1. Another interesting shortcut key here in Excel that we can use is the Alt equal. The Alt equal shortcut key can add up for us a set of values in a range, or the values that make up a column, or the values that make up a row, for example. Let's pretend here I want to add up all the values that I have here in the first column, the second one, the third one. So basically I have here 3 different sets of data sets, and I want to add up the first row, the second one, and also the first column, the second one, and so on and so on. I want to know the total. Here, something that I can do is equal sign, and then use the sum function, double click here to select 1, 2, and select everything that I want to add up together. Enter, and here I'm basically done. But I can do it faster using the Alt equal, and I'm done. Just press enter and that's it. So this is how we can add up values faster in Excel using the Alt equal shortcut key. I can do the same thing here to the column. So let's pretend I need to sum to add up all the values that make up my first column. I can go here to the first blank cell, for example, and then Alt equal, and that's it. Enter, and I'm done. Another thing that I can do as I need to add the sum for all the rows and also for all the columns that I have, I can select everything here and one column to the right and one row to down, and then Alt equal, and we're done. So we basically added up all the values in each one of the rows and also each one of the values in each one of the columns that we have in a data set. Alt equal. This is a worth shortcut key here in Excel. Another interesting and simple shortcut key in Excel is the Alt Enter. The Alt Enter, we can use it within a cell, inside the cell. Let's say you need to type it in a header in your data set, for example, but the header is become too large, with a lot of different words, and maybe it's a good idea to break the lines, to use new lines. So something like this, for example, total sold per month per sales person. Let's say this is the sentence that you need to type into your spreadsheet. But as we can see here, this sentence maybe is too large, and that way I'm gonna need to use a large column here, but I don't have so much space here in the spreadsheet to increase the column size. Another thing that you can do is using multiple lines within one cell. Basically, you just need to open the cell, 1, 2, and then let's say total sold, you want to put it in as the first line. That way, you can select everything that is after the total sold, and then you can press here the Alt Enter. That way, you create a new row, a new line. You can do the same thing here, let's say per salesperson. Alt Enter. Now I have 3 different lines, 3 different rows within one cell. Enter. I'm done. So this is how you can use the simple shortcut key Alt Enter to help you on your daily basis. You can basically break lines. You can create new lines. Another shortcut key that we have here is the Ctrl A. The Ctrl A is a shortcut key that can help us to select everything that make up our dataset. Instead of doing it manually with the mouse, so click, hold, and drag all the way through the date to select everything, you can instead clicking anywhere in your dataset and then press Ctrl A. That way you can also select everything, but in a faster way. And as everything here now is selected using the Ctrl A, I can, let's say, move it to the right, or drag it down, or drag it to the left, or drag it up. Another interesting shortcut key here that we have is the Alt F1. The Alt F1 can help us to build a chart in Excel. Instead of select the data and then go to the Insert tab, select the chart, and then click here, you can instantaneously just press the Alt F1 key, and that way you already have the chart into your spreadsheet. It's a faster way to build a chart in Excel, and we can use both shortcut keys here, the Ctrl A and the Alt F1, for example. I'm going to click here in anywhere within my dataset, and then Ctrl A to select everything, and then Alt F1, and I'm done. The chart is already here in the screen. The flash fill in Excel is the next shortcut key that you're going to see here, and we can have access to this flash fill using the Ctrl E shortcut key in Excel. Here I basically have a large data set where I have information such as date, customer, product, quantity, unit price, total price, and the seller, the salesperson. Let's say I need to create here a product ID for each one of the products that I have, vitamin D, magnesium, and so on. Let's take this first product here as the example. I want to create the ID for the product based on the product itself, based on the name. As the vitamin D have let's say the first 3 letters as the V, I, and T, I want to use it as the ID. So instead of using vitamin, the entire word, I'm just going to use the 3 first letters, VIT, for example. So here I'm going to type it in VIT, and then I'm going to append a random code, let's say 123321, a code that I just invented right now. I can press here Enter, but now I have a big problem here. Because I have a lot of rows, in this data set, and I need to create a product ID for each one of the products that I have here. And of course, it's going to take me a long time to do it, or not, because Excel can help me with the Ctrl E, the flash fill. Here now in this next row, I'm going to press Ctrl E, and basically what the Excel did here is to continue to do the sequence for me, following the criteria that I just did before. Excel can, of course, Excel realize here that I'm using VIT as the first 3 letters of the product, and also I'm using here this code 123321 as basically a random number. So this is why Excel follow the sequence all the way down for all the rows that I have, and also maintain here the first 3 letters of all the products that I have in my list. This is how we can use the flash fill in Excel, and we can have access to the flash fill through the Ctrl E. We can also create, let's say, different things, such as customer email address. So let's pretend here you need to create, or of course you can create a different email for each one of the employees that you have in your company. Don't need to be to the customer itself. Maybe it's not even make sense, but anyway, customer email address. I want to create here an email address using as criteria the name of the customer, for example. I'm going to use here the first criteria is Math Mendonça. I'm going to stick with, let's say, the first name, or actually I can use the first name, the first letter of the first name, and also the first letter of the surname, for example, the surname. I'm going to do something like this. M, period, M, for example, M.M, that is, stands for Matt.Mendonça, and then at mail.com. Let's see if Excel can understand what we need to do here. Enter, Ctrl E, and yeah, I don't know if it's correct. Let's check here. The second row, I have Caleb King, so C and K. Here I got C and C. No, it's not correct, Excel. So as Excel just gives us here an arrow, I'm gonna double click here in the cell where I got the arrow, the first arrow, and then I'm gonna make it right, correct. C and K at mail.com, and then I'm gonna press enter, and then Excel is gonna understand better what I need to do, and it's gonna correct everything else for me. Enter, and here we got. Now I think everything here is correct. Let's take this email right here as reference, jp@mail.com. Let's see if it's correct. Yes, Jack Phillips. Yes, it's correct. So this is how we can use the Ctrl E function in Excel, the flash fill, and this is how we can also solve some issues that can appear through this shortcut key. Another interesting shortcut key in Excel, this is basically one, is the Ctrl space and the Shift space. Basically, with the Ctrl space, we can select the entire row, the entire column, for example, such as I'm doing here. I can also, instead of select the entire column, I can change and select the entire row using the Shift space. But let's say, why it's important to select the entire row, or why it's important to select the entire column? For what? What is the purpose to do it? Good question, and this is why I already left here these last 2 shortcut keys that we're gonna use, Ctrl plus and Ctrl minus. We can use together these 4 functions, basically, these 4 shortcut keys, Ctrl space, Shift space, and also the Ctrl plus and Ctrl minus. Let's say you want to add a new blank column, for example. Let's say you want to add a new blank column basically here, in between the column C and the column D. You can select the entire column D, but instead of using the mouse itself, the cursor, you can use, as we just learned before, Ctrl space to select the entire column, and then you can add a new column using the Ctrl plus, like this, for example. So here now I have an entire blank, fresh new column, column D. I can also delete any column that I have in my spreadsheet using the Ctrl minus. I can also add some rows or delete the rows following the same criteria as we did to the columns. I can use the Ctrl plus or the Ctrl minus. And of course, I can continue to use the Ctrl space to select an entire row, entire column, or also using the Shift space to select the entire row, for example. So let's say I just forgotten to input here a sales that I did. To do it, instead of select the entire row through the mouse and then right click and then insert, I can make it faster. So I can use here the key of my keyboard, the keys, and then I can select the entire row using the shift space, and then I can add a new blank row using the Ctrl plus, like this. And you can also use all these commands to delete a row, for example. But instead of just delete one specific row, let's say I want to select here the row 18 and 19, 20, 21, 22. I want to delete all these rows here. I can use the select everything and then Ctrl minus, and that's it. I'm done. I just deleted a couple of different rows here using all these shortcut keys that we just learned before. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions or any suggestions to the next videos, let me know, comment down below, and I see you tomorrow. As every day has a new video, I see you there.